This is the JTV Caribbean News. I am Sean Rose. Trinidad and Tobago is among 3 countries with the highest cancer mortality rates in the Americas, according to a new report released by the Pan American Health Organization PAHO. The report showed that while deaths from cancer were decreasing in some countries of the Americas for certain kinds of cancers, deaths from other cancers were on the rise. Overall, cancer is holding steady as the second leading cause of death in the Americas, claiming an estimated 1.3 million lives each year. The PAHO WHO report shows that Latin America and the Caribbean account for approximately 50% of cancer deaths in the Americas, although they account for 63% of the hemisphere's population. The highest cancer mortality rates in the region are found in Trinidad and Tobago, Cuba, and Argentina, based on the report. Mexico, Nicaragua, and El Salvador have the lowest cancer mortality rates. The report found that obesity, another important cancer risk factor, is highest in English-speaking Caribbean countries, notably Bahamas, Belize, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Trinidad and Tobago. PAHO said it is also working with countries and partner organizations to develop and implement comprehensive cancer control programs within the framework of the PAHO WHO strategy and plan of action on non-communicable diseases. A new United Nations report has spotlighted what it describes as the high rates of teenage pregnancies in the Caribbean and other developing countries. The report has called on governments to help girls achieve their full potential through education and adequate health services. The report says that an estimated 70,000 adolescents in developing countries die each year from complications during pregnancy and childbirth. UNFPA Director Babatunde Osotimin says too often society blames only the girl for getting pregnant. He said the reality is that adolescent pregnancy is most often not the result of a deliberate choice, but rather the absence of choices and of circumstances beyond a girl's control. In the Caribbean, the countries with the highest rate of teen pregnancy are Belize, Guyana, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The report seeks to offer a new perspective on teenage pregnancy, looking not only at girls' behavior as a cause of early pregnancy, but also at the actions of their families, communities, and governments. Bermuda's Public Safety Minister Michael Dunkley has issued a writ against opposition leader Mark Bean, claiming remarks he made during a discussion on the social networking site Facebook were defamatory. According to Caribbean News Now, the website debate took place on September 30. After Dunkley, a dairy owner who is also the island's deputy premier, tabled a motion in the House of Assembly recommending a joint select committee be formed to examine the implementation of a random drug test for members of parliament. One contributor posted a link to a 2007 video made by a former narcotics officer who had questioned whether Dunkley had played any part in a 2003 drugs importation conspiracy involving 2 of his Dunkley Dairy employees. The 2 men were found guilty of attempting to smuggle the drugs into the island in a dairy container. But during the debate on Facebook's Bermuda Election 2012 page, the opposition leader made several references to the video and made comments about the minister, who then filed a lawsuit against the opposition leader. Dunkley told the Royal Gazette newspaper he considered the remarks defamatory and said Bean, the leader of the main opposition Progressive Labour Party, had turned down a request to withdraw the comments. The PLP lost its 14-year grip on power in last December's general election, 19 seats to 17 to the One Bermuda Alliance, the OBA. The Cayman Islands government signed a Tax Information Exchange Agreement, a TIEA, with the United Kingdom, under which it will send all British nationals' account information to the mother country. Government signed on the dotted line with the UK Overseas Territories Minister Mark Simmons Tuesday, November 5th. The document orders the automatic transfer of account information belonging to any British citizen living in the Cayman Islands to the United Kingdom.
And I also think it's important that the Cayman Islands should be recognised as the first overseas territory to sign such an agreement with the United Kingdom. And I think this importantly reflects the constructive approach that the Cayman Islands has taken in delivering our shared objective of rooting out tax evasion.
Meanwhile, one financial expert says the UK's call for a public ownership registry will sound the death knell for private client business in the Cayman Islands. Former Cayman Finance Chair Anthony Travers says he has serious concerns as the British Prime Minister has now revealed the list of owners will be open to all. Cayman 27 Tammy Solomon has this report.
For too long, a small minority have hidden their business dealings behind a complicated web of shell companies. And this cloak of secrecy has fueled all manners of questionable practice and downright illegality.
That's UK Prime Minister David Cameron as he reveals his plans for a public financial ownership registry.
There is no coherent reason for opening up the ultimate register of beneficial owners of a Cayman Island company or entity to public scrutiny.
And that's attorney and former chair of Cayman Finance, Anthony Travers. He says there is no such thing as a shell company, and such a registry would hurt business in the Cayman Islands.
There is no definition of a shell company. They apply across the board to all companies. And what they obfuscate completely is what is known as the legitimate right to privacy.
Back in April, the then interim government signed a letter expressing agreement to join the G5 Exchange pilot program. It was a program that the UK government was going to ask all of its overseas territories to sign up to. Back then, not many details were revealed about what the program actually entailed. Now, Prime Minister Cameron says it's high time such a registry exists.
Illegality that is bad for the developing world, as corrupt regimes can stash their money abroad under different identities. But illegality that is bad for Britain's economy too, as people evade their taxes through untraceable trails of paperwork.
Mr. Travers says careful consideration must be given before signing on the dotted line.
Public scrutiny means not only journalists, but criminals, cyber criminals, terrorists, burglars, kidnappers. All the information concerning any of these companies would be available to the entire criminal underworld. And if you're the only jurisdiction that has that arrangement, then you can reckon that those with perfectly legitimate business interests who seek normal commercial confidentiality will simply seek other jurisdictions.
He says it's not just companies that can feel the fallout.
Apart from the area of companies, of course, you have the area of trusts, private client, family matters. Nobody's going to come to the Cayman Islands if they have to ultimately disclose the most intimate details of their family trust arrangements and who owns trusts set up for successive generations of any one family. It would effectively drive a dagger through the heart of the private client business in the Cayman Islands.
But he says if the playing field is level, that may be a different story.
As Jersey Finance quite correctly came out and said, we should wait and see. If it becomes a universal global standard, then there may well be good arguments in favour of adopting it, but we should not be a pathfinder in relation to these proposals.
Until that happens, he advises we should hold the pen back from the paper. Tammy Suleiman, Cayman 27.
Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt says the time has come to make the regional airline LIAT an essential service, as the airline deals with a strike by its pilots that have led to several cancellations and flight delays. Skerritt, speaking with the online Barbados Today newspaper, said he was concerned that the regional traveling public was being held to ransom every time there is industrial action at LIAT, whose major shareholders are Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The pilots walked off the jobs on Tuesday, forcing cancellations and delays by the airline that flies to more than 21 destinations on a daily basis. Skerritt said the permanent fix to the problem could be along the lines of an essential service. In June, Prime Ministers Baldwin Spencer and Dr. Ralph Gonsalves supported a statement by then LIAT's Chief Executive Officer Ian Brunton that the aviation industry should also be classified as an essential service with legislated restricted rights to strike. LIAT's Chief Executive Officer said that tourism was the mainstay of the majority of the region's economies and the air services connect the countries of the Caribbean. For the GTV Caribbean News, Sean Rose.
And coming up next on JTV News. Key stage testing to further evaluate students' academic progress and will eliminate the traditional primary 5 exams. Minister Walwyn reiterates his preference for a local officer to hold the top job at the HM prison. And Jungle Boogie Dance Crew kicks off the HLSCC Performing Arts Student Outreach Series.